Hi there, it's Gabe, your friendly host here at the Neutral Cider Hotel. A couple of quick things to note at the top of this episode. First of all, as you will tell quite imminently, this was recorded very shortly after the general election here in the UK. And so there's a lot of very fresh reference to that happening. That was a little time ago now, but you know what? Nothing much has happened anyway, so it's just fine. And then the second thing to note is about our interview with Sam and Steph from Tydecho. Since we recorded this interview, a few things have changed. They've gone and done an anti-Oasis. So rather than coming back together, they've actually parted ways. But nothing acrimonious, no chair throwing, mudslinging or spilt cider, just personal circumstances change and logistics, those very, very boring things. They're both super proud of this episode and they're very proud of the fact that traditional Welsh cider is being championed on the pod, so they're really happy for it to go out as it is. And you know what? Rather than being one cider maker, we've now got two cider makers out there in the wilds of Mid and North Wales doing their thing. So enjoy the show. In the last few days since we had the opportunity to gaze into each other's eyes.
Let's go back to that.
All will be revealed.
You can't just skip over that. All will be revealed.
All will be revealed later in the show, Grant. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, I completely missed that.
Oh. You know, when we're on a date. Are you gaslighting me, Martyn? Are you gaslighting me? What's going on?
Careful.
I feel like I've been
gaslighting. Who are you? You've changed. And welcome to a special general election themed episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. I am your host, Mr. Gabriel Cook, North Herefordshire, Green Party, along with Mr. Martyn Goodwin Sharman, Bristol, Monster Raving Loony Party. We obviously have Grant Hutchison, Scotland, SNP, and of course we have, not forgetting, producer Scott, San Diego, Grandpa, wake up, otherwise the bad man's going to be president again, party. Coming up a little bit later on the show, we'll be chatting with Sam Robinson and Steffan Smith of new Welsh cider upstart Seidir Tydecho. We'll also be discussing the Bristol Cider Salon, and Martyn has put together a little bit of a game for us. But first, as we've just heard, it's all about the politics. Labour win a general election for the first time in 14 years here in the UK. How are we feeling about that, gents?
Confused. And also, I've got to revoke Monster Raving Loony Party and be straight reform.
Okay,
100%.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't want to pigeonhole you, but I was, I thought I'd go slightly left field. So
no, in a lot of terms, not much is going to change, and that's horrible. But I thought straight away, this is how old I am now, and I know I'm a dad like you guys, because I went, what will this do for the taxation on cider? And I was like, here we are, enjoying tax chat.
Yes.
I mean, it's the only topic that I think basically anybody was thinking of when they were heading to the polls. And what was our voter turnout? Was 59% or something like that. And so obviously, those are the 41% people. They were, I don't know, beer or wine fans, and so they've got it easy already. So all the cider drinkers were out in force, hoping for a better duty rate. That said, the last time there was Labour government, the final act in their budget in March 2010 was to put up cider duty by 10%.
10%.
10%.
Whoa.
So, which was then repealed when the coalition got in just a few months later. So it remains to be seen. Dun, dun, dun. And, you got a huge number of new MPs that have never sort of come across cider before in a professional capacity. I'm sure there's a few cider heads amongst the new cohort, for sure. Ellie Chowns, our new Green MP for North Herefordshire, she definitely likes an Oliver's cider because he was part of the promotional campaign. Basically, Oliver's got Ellie Chowns into government.
Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, I feel like I got whiplash from that sentence because you did like 7 sentences at once.
Yes. Yeah. I'm in full political reporting mode. I've been listening to a lot of BBC Radio 4 just recently, so I just should probably have a sip of cider and step back.
So in short, do we know anything of the tax, or was that just a tease? The way you've written it in our show notes for the listeners, I thought Gabe had an answer. Gabe, do you have an answer?
Of course I don't have an answer. Don't be crazy.
No, just a really long question.
Just a really look. I'm going old school. I'm going back to the old days where I do my 3-minute question that either didn't have an answer or I in fact answered it myself by answering another question, basically. So, no, it remains to be seen. We shall see. Okay, that's enough political chat. There's only so much that we can cope with in 1 week. So, Martyn, what's been on your radar?
So I did a 10K run for charity, and it was the first time I've actually ran with other people, which was an odd feeling. Like I've always kind of ran just by myself. So then being in it's not a competition, but it definitely is. And there was a guy in his, I'd say 70s in front of me, and little guy, legs like pistons. And I was like, if I just keep up with him, it'll be fine. And about 40 minutes in, I was like, if I just keep up with him. And he didn't break a sweat. I was like, this guy. But did it in 55 minutes, raised, what was it, 350 quid for charity. So
amazing.
All good. Well
done.
Good.
Well done.
Round of applause.
Congratulations.
And then to bring it back to cider, I was talking to my mate Lally, someone I went to school with, about cider, because I saw that she has a Instagram called the Folk Archive, which actually has more followers than Frightened Rabbit. It's got like 71,000 people love old stuff. And I was asking her about anything that she's found in cider, and she just sent me loads of old wassails from like the 60s and 70s. So I've just been watching very old cider videos. So thank you to the Folk Archive. And
well done on the follows, Folk Archive. Nice of you to single me out there.
Well, it was more because you're our height, yeah. So I was like, this can't be right. She's got to have paid for followers or something. But no, everyone loves old folk stuff. So there you go.
Not everyone loves Frightened Rabbit.
Oh. I thought you were going to say more followers than like me or Scott on Instagram, but no,
all of us combined.
Holy moly! People just love old videos of men in tweed jackets firing shotguns into the trees. That's just...
I will say one of them from the 60s had no audio, and I was listening to The Twilight Sad. So at least there's hopefully some numeration coming your way for that, Grant, as an apology.
0.0001 pence. There we go.
The band I haven't recorded with yet.
Yeah.
Thanks for that one, Martyn.
0.00000 pence then. Yes. Recurring.
Well, my apologies. Sorry to try bring everyone into it. Didn't mean to knock your bands, Grant.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
We'll surely put a link in the show notes there for you can all go and have a view yourself to see whether that account is indeed worthy of more reviews than Frightened Rabbit.
Yes.
Grant, tell us what's been the highlight of your last week or so.
I struggled to come up with a highlight of my week, to be honest. So I thought we should all take a minute to congratulate Albert Johnson on becoming a pa.
Really?
Albert and his partner Becky had a little girl called Freya this week, which kind of timestamps this episode. Scott's going to give me a row for timestamping this episode, but congratulations. Nice to
Welcome to the club.
Another newcomer to the cider world. I'm sure she'll be up there picking apples as soon as she possibly can.
As soon as her opposable thumbs start to work. Yeah.
Do you need opposable thumbs? You just punch them off, right? Just flick them.
Sentences you thought you'd say. Why is that written in the notes? Why have you pre-rehearsed that?
Mention opposable thumbs.
in italics. I'm sure he'll find, as we all have, that it actually improves the flexibility for recording cider-based podcasts.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, congratulations, Albert. Commiserations to Cider Voice, because you're going to be doing a lot more without him over the next wee while.
Also, commiserations to the Ross-on-Wye second 11 cricket team who might have lost their captain for a bit. Although I know that Albert will be. I think, like, literally, there was supposed to be a game on the night before Becky was possibly due to give birth, and he only called off him playing at like the 11th hour, and it's the first time he's ever cancelled, and he was devastated. But hopefully, quite happy about the arrival of his first newborn child. Welcome to the club.
Yes, congratulations from everyone at the hotel.
What's sale, baby?
Producer Scott, what's been happening in your world?
I'm so not ever expecting you to throw it to me, so I'm never prepared for a question of what's been happening in your world.
I believe I can tell you what you did. How about I tell what you did? You drove like a 8-hour round trip from your house to Los Angeles and back to drop off a sleeping bag.
Pickup. Yes, that's correct.
Wow. Wow. Come on. Spill the beans.
So this Iceland trip, a buddy of mine is loaning me gear, and he came down for the 4th of July holiday weekend and forgot the sleeping bag, and he's leaving town in the next couple days. So there was just a small window of time for me to get it. So I just drove him back to LA, dropped him off, grabbed the gear, and came back.
Wow. Okay, sorry. So picking up the bag, not dropping it off.
Yes.
How much did that cost in petrol compared to buying a new bag?
$0.00 because I drove electric.
But you got to charge the car.
Well, yeah. Let's hang on. I'm not.
I charged the car off of my solar panels, so no, cost nothing.
Oh, he's got you.
I mean,
he's got you.
Yeah,
Come on,
he has got me.
Come on, Martin, go back. What have you got?
No.
Come on, net zero negative. Yeah, come on.
You must have bought a hot dog or something when you stopped. You can't tell me you didn't stop.
I did stop, so it might have cost $3 or $4.
Well, that's
you could have got a sleeping bag for that. Yeah, you got mugged. You got mugged.
Idiot.
Also, I would have said it, but I don't think Scott charges for his time if we're to remember anything about the podcast. So it cost him $0.
All right then, guys, let's keep this thing moving. Keep it moving. That's the end of our chit chat. Up next, let's see what's happening in the news. But first, a word from our sponsor. This episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast is sponsored by The Cat in the Glass, our fantastic friend Nikki Kong. This is an online bottle shop and home to some of the best drinks around. Grant, Martin, what's your experience of The Cat in the Glass?
Do you know what? Ignoring the fact that they have saved our asses on multiple times when we've bought ciders for the pod, it's a case of a massive library of multiple vintages, of multiple cider makers that we love. So it's a huge range, well curated, always accessible, easy website. You can separate between beer and cider, but for me personally, I'm always selecting cider, and I'm always going to most popular in the settings and picking out what looks good, what I've heard about, and also is a good resource to find stuff that's actually off my radar. So there's a lot going on at Cat in the Glass.
I love the fact they host the Manchester Cider Club second Thursday of every month. I think, I sort of attended a few remotely during lockdown, but now that we're back to normal, I haven't made it. But it's a great way to meet like-minded cider fans. Again, like Martin said, discover new bottles, either by brand new makers or by existing makers that you know. I know they always, alongside Dick and Kath, who help run it, they always bring out great makers, great bottles, and it's a lot of fun. So
there you go. An amazing selection of ciders from the UK and international too, with quite a strong emphasis on organic and low intervention cider and perry. And the best thing is, if you order before 12 p.m, it is next day, UK wide, probably not including the Highlands, sorry, Grant, courier deliveries Monday to Thursdays. So make sure that you head to www.thecatintheglass.co.uk for all of your fantastic cider orders. Cheers for sponsoring this episode. And now we're back here at the Neutral Cider Hotel, and it's time for the news. And this time around, there's only one cider story to cover: the Bristol Cider Salon, which took place at the end of June and to which 50% of the Neutral Cider Hotel crew attended. Can you guess which half? But before we get into the chat, let's hear what the podcast's roving reporter found out at the event itself.
Okay, somebody that you won't have heard of on the show. His name is Jake. He's a very beautiful man. He's got a semi-good moustache, not as good as mine, obviously.
Good.
But he's pouring cider from a brand that we would know. It's called Tydecho. And it's got like a gerbil on the front as well. This with me now is Jake Mann, who is the orchardist and grower from which our lovely friend Robbie Hunter buys the apples to make the cider. You are pouring Tydecho cider here at the salon. Jake, how are you getting on?
It's awesome. This is such an honor to come over here and bring the fruit that we grew and pour it for the lovely folks here in Bristol.
Amazing.
It's been great.
How is Robbie?
He's doing great.
Yeah,
kicking butt. He's it looks like he's going to be opening a tasting room with Soros at Santa Cruz. It's on the DL at the moment, but it should be soon.
Now on a podcast as well. So
yeah.
Not too much.
Broadcasting live. We're excited about that because you're going to be able to go visit Santa Cruz and go to a spot that's got Tydecho pouring. Not just in restaurants and stores.
For all of our US listeners, you heard it here. You can buy direct from the man, the legend, Robbie. Yes. Jake, on your way, go and try some In Touch.
Thanks,
See you again. Cheers, brother.
Oh, you star. There's the advert. There's the plug.
There it is. This episode sponsored by Martyn Goodwin Sharman In Touch.
Let's talk about that though. Not me. Okay. The reason why you've brought that up is because I believe they had a very similar cider pouring, didn't they?
That's right. It's a blend of. I'm not sure if it's singular variety, Martyn's favorite US apple variety. Can I tee you up to say the name of the variety, Martyn?
Which one is it?
Newton. You know the one.
Oh, Newton. That's not my favorite, is it? Newton Pippin.
That's the one.
I'm trying to get away from catchphrases, but pull me back in.
Sorry. It's very reform of you to have lots of slogans, isn't it? So let's step away. It's Newtown Pippin. I think it's a single variety blended with some Pinot Noir from a nearby winery, and it's gorgeous. It's textural. It's intense, but nice balance. It's not quite as good as In Touch, but it's pretty darn good, I would say.
I thought they were a great little kind of cousins act because it's with the Keith stuff from Somerset. You've got that kind of like soft tannin from the cider apples, but then amplified by the Pinot. And there's a little bit of there's always been a bit of dessert variety in there to brighten it up, but that being like sharpness led and then more tannin than expected from the Pinot. They come out kind of. I was tasting them side by side, like really happy with theirs. Really happy.
Yeah, they were. There was a good synergy between them. Big shout out to Jake, who's a really nice guy, and he's a very talented apple grower. It's a family apple farm just outside of Santa Cruz, not too far from there. And took him to visit Mr. Oliver, and he took us to go and visit one of his growers to see how bittersweet fruit and perry pears grow in Herefordshire, and the sort of the similarities and differences and the considerations to growing out in California. So thanks, Jake, for the time and coming over and sharing Robbie's delightful Tydecho ciders. All right, Scott, who else did the roving reporter get out there and meet on the mean streets of Trinity Centre in Bristol?
Okay, first willing or maybe not so willing subject, we bumped into a legend of the show. In fact, it was the very first person who we spoke to, the person who possibly still can't afford a lamp whilst being interviewed, it's Mr. Tom Oliver. Mr. Oliver, how has the salon been for you?
Salon's been great, and I think one of the things, I would always love there to be more people here, without a shadow of a doubt. But having just the lovely number that we have, it's made it more spaced out, more relaxed. People can have a little more time, and it's been brilliant. And the great thing is about with having the number of people we have more spittoons per head than ever before, and I think that's a really important thing.
I mean, we're saying spittoons; they are 10-litre buckets here. That's a lot of spitting that doesn't actually seem to have happened very much. Everyone's been drinking well.
That's it. Oh, how nice that they've entered into the whole concept of the thing, into the spirit of the game.
Bravo, Tom. Thank you very much. I know that there are people who are quite literally helping themselves to your cider, so we'll let you get back.
Thank you very much, Gabe. Lovely to see you.
You got the organizer of the event, one of the most inspirational kind of modern cider makers. You've got him for 2 minutes and you spend 1:50 talking about spit.
and how few people are there. Let's focus on how spacious it is.
Well, come on, you have been to the cider salon at the Trinity Centre. It can get a little bit elbowy, and so we had the top floor and the bottom this year. And there were, a handful of people fewer than in previous years, and it did just lead to a slightly calmer sense across the room.
But then now that's probably because there are more happening elsewhere.
No, that as well. But I'm going to cut you off immediately.
Okay.
It was Glastonbury weekend, wasn't it? It was like the only weekend they could get, and everyone with expendable cash who likes cider is going to be going down to Pilton and drinking from the cider bus, aren't they?
They will be at the door of the cider bus, knocking it down to get a hold of some of Borough Hill's finest, no doubt. It was when we mentioned about somebody helping themselves, that there was a guy who was quite literally just walked up to Tom's table and just poured herself a giant glug of at the hop number 11, the return of the hopped cider, which was, I don't know, maybe my favourite hop cider from Mr. Oliver. It was really cracking. Oh, it was a dream. It was a real dream.
He also had that Boom Perry, like the 3.2, I think it is, Keeved. And oh my God, like a quick shout out on another side note, on a side note, but Milkshake Mike was there, but I didn't know it was him. I was chatting away, and then I've first one with a baby, so I was like trying to be a dad and not get drunk, using every spittoon possible. And yeah, I messaged him afterwards because he said something. I was like, oh, that was you. Why didn't you say? And he was like, you were too busy and famous. But he posted it the other day, and it's just lovely eucalyptusy, minty. It's got so many crazy aromas. And then that like just so soft, tannic, big bolshy sweetness. It was literally like, one of the best Perrys pouring there. And it's one of the best Perrys I'd ever had. So it was, the Perry game was insane.
Which one's that? Boom.
Called Boom, yeah.
He's quite interesting. He's got 3 Perrys out at the moment, which are all below 3% alcohol. He's famously not a great fan of low and no, but he's just produced 3 absolute bangers.
Boom, Boss, and what is it? E Street
Baby
or something. They're pure like Springsteen Perrys.
He's obviously a big fan of the Boss. And speaking of Perry, I think the other producer who was making a splash, Wilding, brought along 3 different Perrys. No cider, just Perry. A single variety New Meadow, single variety Oldfield, and an orchard blend called 1909. And to a T, every single one of them was just outstanding, like grotesquely fabulous. Sensational
ordered
stuff
from them. I'm raging. I literally just ordered a pallet, and then I looked at it on Instagram and I was like, they've got 3 new fucking Perrys.
He didn't have the labels, I can tell you that for free.
Right, okay.
But The Perrys themselves, Grant, the pears are so beautifully washed. Like you can tell that whoever sat there, whoever created them, washing them in a bucket, knew what they were doing. I'm only half joking. Obviously, it's as minimum intervention there as you can possibly get, and it's years apart. So trying these again, I was saying to him, how is this character? What is happening? And I was there, but some of them, it's like this little oxidative, sweet kind of sherry port note, and all it is the bletting because it's stainless steel ferment. It's just like I don't get how all that's just in the fruit. And yeah, like I say, I've drank them before from tank and then in bottle, but I was literally like, these are fucking great, mate. These are so good.
Just before we get onto the final clip, shout out to Milkshake Mike indeed, who I had a good chat to, and I did actually interview him, but it was a little later into the day, and so the general atmosphere got a little bit boisterous, and you can't hear a word that he was saying on the.
I thought you were going to say that you were both totally steaming. I love you, man.
I'll tell you anything.
Oh, yeah, pints of fucking 9%. Fuck it.
That isn't what happened. Certainly I wasn't, because I was driving home that evening. But let's move on to the final interviewee, because I don't quite know what to say. An absolute legend, a celebrity, somebody that I have looked up to for a very long time. I can't believe they were there. I had to go and speak to them. I plucked up the courage, and this is what happened.
And now, somebody very, very special indeed. I can't believe that they're here. They've graced the salon with their presence. Who have we got? We have
Ed Byrne. Fine.
It's Man Good with Chamo.
Thanks.
Hooray. How you doing, brother? You're stood here with a wet sort of cloth muslin on your shoulder. There's no baby here. That's just like how you roll these days. That's just your style.
Yeah, the baby's at home and I've turned up once. No, to be honest, this is the first salon with a baby in tow. So I've been spitooning, tipping, not drinking, and trying to time naps. It's been mental, but if that means that I get to enjoy the small things in life, like the best cider makers in the world convening in one room, so be it. It's
not bad. It's a long way from the legendary 2019 cider salon where we got a little bit tired, shall we?
Do you know what? My baby in a nappy has urinated all over himself, so that's as close as we get. Move on.
So, as ever, they're bringing together all these amazing producers. Any standouts for you?
Do you know what? I work at Wilding, and who helps us there, it's a guy called Rob. And he is the guy from Stockley Cider, and he gave me tasters before and he's very worried about his stuff last year, and actually it was like first vintages and all this. You're like, no, they're nice. Trying them in essence in competition, they are absolutely stunning. Like texturally, aromatically, the fruit that's held within, like on the palate, is every category. It's a 9 or a 10, and I genuinely. Though Stockley for all three, but my favourite out of the whole bunch has been Biscay by Artistry. I just told her then it was like the aromatics. It's kind of like if you were to move the foliage and the herbs and the wildlife in a secret garden and walk into a dream. It's magical, wild, fragrant, perfumed, perfect. If that's a perfect side, absolutely.
I better go and try some. I haven't tried it yet. For me, it's been the Wilding Perries, a triumvirate of Perries.
The ones that I've cleaned the pears for.
Did you?
Yeah, no, I've worked in there for the last 3 harvests. Yeah.
So it's your patented scouring technique on the surface of the pears rather than the timely articulate skill of Sam and Becky.
No, I'll be like, Sam says to me, what do you think of these? I say, we need to clean them. And that's it. But Wilding, obviously unbiased, fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. All right, we got to go. You've got a baby to go and put to bed, and
shit the baby.
Oh shit the baby. Off we go. Bye.
We just repeated everything again.
So, do you work at Wilding?
Are you joking?
Do you work there?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Was that not clear?
No, I don't think you said it enough times.
Okay, so because I clean the pears.
Right, okay, the pears, right, cleaning the pears. See.
But yeah, they going back to all that cutting out of what we've said before, the Stockley ciders, fuck me.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, Grant, you need to add that onto your next order. If
I don't know, I was just about to look them up. Don't think I'm...
Oh, let me give you a surprise treat. He doesn't fucking post anything. He literally had like the best launch pad. Everyone was at the salon going, yeah, everyone was going, these are the best things I've ever drank. And I looked next day, not even a repost. Oh my God.
I'll find him.
That sounds a little bit aggressive and kind of like you want to like track him down and like hurt him possibly.
That's what I was going for.
Okay.
That's the vibe I was going for. Glad you're on the same page.
On board. You also made mention there, Martyn, of the artist draw Biscay, and what that affords an opportunity is for the first time in a very long time is to bring out of the stable, it's only the horse of knowledge. Hello, horsey. How are you? It's been a very, very long time. Would you like some oats? No, get out in the field and work. So, horsey, reason why the poor horse has been dragged out of the stable is because I wanted to mention about the variety Biscay, because up until about a year or 18 months, 2 years ago, possibly, the variety Biscay was not being used in the UK at all. And its use is all down to a chap called John Tyzer. John Tyzer is a mega cider and cider apple and perry pear enthusiast from near Ross and Wye. He's good friends with Ross Cider. And John Tyzer is he likes to research and he likes to find things out. And he's quite determined. And, he's the guy who, when searching for this long-lost perry pear variety called Lake Treacle, which, unlike most of the perry pears, most perry pears blossom is white. Lake Treacle's blossom is pink, but it hadn't been sort of seen or recorded for 60 years. So he decided to hire a plane or a microlight and fly around May Hill in the Shire during April looking for pink blossom. That was like the level of like intensity that he really wanted to find. He didn't find it, or he actually did find it, but hasn't been technically approved. Anyway, I digress. He's that kind of guy. And so he did some research and he did some genetic testing or sent away Michelin as is grown here in the UK. And it came back and said it's not the same Michelin as is known actually in France. It's a different variety. So but it is the same as the variety known in France as Biscay, so at some stage in the 1930s, when Bulmers brought this variety over from France to the UK, someone's made a boo-boo, haven't they? And the wrong label has been put on the wrong apple. And this variety, which has been called Michelin for all this time, actually, technically, it is Biscay. So you're going to see Biscay appearing on certain labels like at Ross and Wye and at Artist Draw, although it still appears to be most commonly and broadly being talked about as Michelin still across the UK.
Can I ask?
No.
Okay.
The foliage and the wild garden.
No. Do we have Michelin here then?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's quite such a sort of heralded variety, or if it is, it's just not one that didn't get sort of selected to be grown in any great quantity over here. There might be a true Michelin tree here or there somewhere, but it's not grown in any kind of quantity.
On the same scale.
No, not at all. Not in the slightest.
So all previous bottles of Michelin from Ross on Wye or whoever else, not Michelin.
Not Michelin. Basically any bottle in the UK that you see called Michelin, not Michelin.
Can you imagine that with wine?
I know. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, sorry guys, it's not Pinot Noir. It's Ravy Fundgrunk.
Oh yes, brilliant.
Yeah, I know. Who knew? The old Ravy.
I think I bought pills off him.
What hasn't changed, of course, though, is the fact that Michelin, Biscay, whichever name you choose to use, gets a bit of a bad rep. It's, it's often thought of as being, it's only an apple that the big boys grow because it's good at churning out apples and it's got a bit of tannin, but it's not very good. It's a bit lightweight. This side of Martyn straw sort of demonstrates that it can have a lot going for it. I think the key is to pick the fruit when it's really ripe and to get somebody as talented as Martyn Goodwood-Sharman to give it a really good clean as well is quite critical to its overarching kind of taste profile. But if you don't believe me, go and check out Biscay from Artistraw.
Oh yeah, it was a stunner.
Is that the Prince-inspired label?
It is the one that I drunkenly gave without permission to Ed Byrne. Luckily, it's one of the best ciders I've ever had. So it was just like, honestly, it is so good. And I'm sure from our interview with them, there will be 7-8 bottles available for the public.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
All right then, folks, that's a wrap on our review of the Bristol Cider Salon. Up next, it's our chat with Sam Robinson and Steffan Smith of Seidir Tydecho. It's time to bring on our very special guests. Today we're speaking with one of my favourite new UK cider makers, or should I say Welsh cider makers. This duo have combined passion for Welsh culture, language and storytelling with a desire to celebrate the produce of the land that surrounds them within the beauty of mid-Wales. And I tell you what, the early results are pretty exquisite on the eye and to the palate. So, inimuno I ni in I gwesti cider neutral me Sam Robinson a Steffan Smith o Seidir Tydecho. Hello boys, croeso dangos.
Get that one quiet. What?
Was that a Google Translate number there?
Absolutely not. What did I actually say? I really hope I didn't insult you and your parents.
No, it was a bit abstract, but it was pretty good.
That's how we roll here at the Neutral Cider Hotel. Steph, Sam, thank you for joining us, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the pod. I do believe that, certainly for Sam, that you are a bit of an avid listener to the podcast. You've listened. Have you listened to every single episode? You poor bugger, if you have.
I've not got through them all yet, but only because I'm one of those weirdos that goes back and listens to them at least twice each, sometimes 3 times. Pauses, goes back. Good back. Lord. Yeah, you
say one of those weirdos like there's more of you. I think certainly in terms of our podcasts, you're probably the only one. I've not even finished them all.
You've not even started them.
Yeah. That's true.
So tell us, for anybody who hasn't yet heard of Seidir Tydecho, please, give us just a quick overview of how does it start? Because Sam, it was your sort of project to start with, and you've had a joining, a uniting of the clans of Mid Wales just fairly recently. So tell us a little about how everything sort of got going.
So I started getting involved in making cider about 10 years ago with a chap called Mike Penny of Troggy Cider and Perry down in Monmouthshire when I was at university in Cardiff. And we somehow caught wind of Mike and that he was welcoming people to come for a weekend to pick and press and sharing the fruits by night sort of thing. And then with the first day we turned up with about 12 of us in various vans and kind of like rusty.
Sounds like a ram raiding session. What were you going to do? You're going to steal all the Perry out of his I think
Mike thought we were turning up to squat in his orchard or something. And Mike comes out with his mutton chops, and you see all these old he's got a Morgan 3-wheeler parked outside the garage. We might have misjudged this a little bit. And there was a moment we all measured each other up, and then they quite quickly decided this will be a laugh. And so we all 12 of us ended up sleeping on the floor in his conservatory in front of the fire. And I've been going back there every year with different people since then. And kind of slowly started to get my head around, the whole process of cider making, and then built the confidence to take some juice away and start making a terrible mess in the back of the kitchen for a few years, and then had the kind of inspired idea to actually try and do it as start doing it as a business a couple of years ago, which inspired or completely mad, I don't know, somewhere between the two, and then I was going increasingly mad. It was, if it was inspired at first, it quite quickly descended into madness, and then in about a year and a half in, 2 years in, I heard about. Steph and I sort of knew of each other.
We'd smelt each other's scent from afar, I guess.
Something like that.
Just doing the rounds. There's not many cider beasts in the area. Got a whiff of something potent, and kind of thought, well, maybe not yet. Give another couple of years when I've grown to full size. But then Sam came, didn't you? And found me, and it was, I think it was more of nuptial than military encounter that he was after.
Because you were sort of, I was sort of 2 years ahead of you as such, as in you were kind of where I was just before starting to do it commercially and planning to go in that direction, and then Steph started coming down to the shed and started helping out, and then we kind of thought, well, after we sussed out that we were kind of more or less on the same wavelength, they're like, well, why the hell would we bother just going mad by ourselves when we can come together and drive each other doubly mad, kind of thing.
Nice.
That was how it started.
We just have a lot of the same sort of challenges, don't we? And a lot of the same opportunities in terms of where we live. And we were talking orchards a lot, weren't we? And, where the hell are we going to get the fruit from? How are we going to do it? Which farmers are we going to convince that this is a good idea? Not through subterfuge, no, but finding a kind of win-win situation. And, sort of quickly apparent that it'd be a lot easier doing that together. And then I hadn't really figured that we'd make the cider together. And I wasn't going to sort of presume, because, you already got the space set up. You've got your house made, haven't you? I mean, Sam kind of sent the offer through, and very nice surprise it was. And here we are.
And you mentioned you talked orchards a lot. The fruit obviously was the starting point for you. How and where did you find fruit when you first started?
Well, you and Steph had been scrumping an orchard just down the road, which
it's a community orchard. I mean, I've not met the orchard owner to be able to test this, and I'm maybe chucking the sacks into the Junkers grass. And my car, might be sort of right down to the rims when I leave. I've had that kind of arrangement for a few years, and the odd crab apple and wild tree that I can get in other places.
Well, Wilco's Red.
Yeah, Wilco's Red. Yeah, exactly. I went to scrump a tree in Wilkinson's car park in Porthmadog because I was ashamed. I didn't want to rain apples on the cars. And I was sort of reaching around the dark, and there's a miniature railway runs around the back of that car park. And I figured, I want to get all the apples. So the apple trees kept going over the car park and over the railway. So I went and shook. But I did it with the head torch off, because I figured, this could be trespassing. I'm sure there are signs here. I'm going to pick the apples in the dark. It's nice and dry. And then when I looked in the sack when I got in the car, there's a whole other coloured apple there, a red one. I'd been after a green tree. I thought, well, wow. And it was a much better apple for cider, much higher sugar, low acid, which in these parts is a rarity. That's enough to excite somebody in Northwest Wales. And we've since, it's biennial, so I haven't had any for a couple of years.
And that's a seedling, you think?
We've got some graftings of it. It could be a seedling, could be a seedling chucked off the train, couldn't it? That's the romantic view.
So romantic.
Or it's a gala planted by, the people who ran it as a co-op before it was a Wilco's. I'm hoping for the former.
High quality fare.
Oh, on that note, shall we crack a cider, boys?
I think so.
Yes, please.
So whilst we watch Grant inevitably, as it's a cork and wire, pop the contents over his lovely laptop and microphone. Let's see if the owners, how well they primed it. Let's see. Ooh.
Whoa!
Oh. All noise, no gushy. Well done. You're okay.
Look at it tickling the. Oh no, it's.
Grant, for the listeners, Jesus Christ,
this is terrible. So what are we drinking here? We've got Clan May, I believe it's called, 2022 harvest. Tell us a little bit about what this cider is made from, and some of there's obviously some quite sort of strong imagery and some storytelling on the side there as well. So tell us a little bit more.
So this is the blend. It's a 50-50, 50% sharps and sweets from an orchard in Dinas Moddwy in the valley where I live in Mid Wales. And I'm not sure what those varieties are. The farmers lost the list a long time ago. It's a kind of young orchard of it's probably like a 20-year-old orchard of kind of M25 plantings, traditional spacings, and various kinds of fairly common cooking and eating varieties, I'd say. So it's about 50% those apples, and it's 50% Harry Masters Jersey and Dabinets from an old, I think it's a really old small Bulmers orchard in the Wye Valley down in Monmouthshire. So this is probably the more tannic of, this is absolutely the most tannic of anything we do. It's still pretty kind of light and sharp relative to anything you get from Herefordshire or something like that. And it's been made with this method that I've kind of used a number of different names to describe it, and we've just ended up saying it on the tin does what it says on the tin. Honey fermented sparkling cider. So I suppose it's probably like a method ancestral. So catching the end. So it's the end of the primary fermentation, caught when it's more or less dry but still active, and then there's a honey solution mixed into the header tank to bring it up to about, this I think was 1.007, but it's between that and 1010 kind of thing, to try and get, the idea was to try and get a fine, powerful sparkling cider using only elements derived from the land around us. So wild yeasts, it's wild yeast all the way through, and then honey in the bottle fermentation. And that was kind of like, I didn't really know or have any idea of what that was, how that was going to impact on the flavor of it. That was kind of academic, really. It was something I was doing on principle, and I kind of wasn't really expecting there to be that much flavor impact. But actually, I think if you think about honey, it's what, like 97% sugars and then 3% something else. Those other bits, those kind of non-sugar solids, which are probably where a lot of the aromatics are, the kind of pollen residues and this sort of thing. And that I feel particularly in this one, actually. We did that on everything 2022 to kind of get a sense of how it would work. And I think particularly in this one, it's sort of you wouldn't get, if you had a sip, and I probably shouldn't have told you that, because that could have been fun. We could have seen if anyone actually would have guessed it. But it's pretty subtle, but feels like there is a slight florality there sitting in with the cider. And yeah, so the name, and this one of the reasons I chose this cider is because it kind of the name and the imagery sums up this whole kind of the method really more than any of the other ones. So Clan May is it's like a colloquial tafod. So it's like a colloquial version of Calan Mai, which is May Day, or Beltane, that kind of thing. And there's a tradition, particularly strong around Mid Wales and North East Wales, of May carols. So and it's kind of it's an interesting kind of rural ceremony. It's sort of like a counterpoint to the wassailing or the Mariloid in the winter. So it happens, which obviously happens in kind of midwinter. So this happens at the turn of May, the kind of the trothwy, the threshold of summer. And traditionally people would go, you'd walk around the village, before dawn on May Day morning, knocking on everyone's doors and creating a terrible noise and waking everyone up and endearing yourself awfully to your neighbours and sing these carols that are kind of nominally Christian, but really the sump of the meaning of the songs has nothing to do with any biblical episodes. It's all just about welcoming the summer and the return of light and warmth and growth and greenery to the earth and this kind of thing.
Oh, man.
And although that tradition of welcoming the summer is extremely old in Wales and everywhere, and has kind of roots that go beyond anyone's ability to follow them, this particular tradition is actually quite young. It's like the earliest May carols we have come from the 16 and 1700s, and it had a very kind of intense period from probably like the late 1600s through to the 1800s. And sadly, a lot of the carols have been lost. There's kind of only a handful have survived, and so that's what we've quoted on the back is this passage from it's the first verse from one of the songs. So atolog lana teulu rhowch genad I ni ganu, mae'r id ar borfa'n glasu yn tyfu ar y tir, mae'r gog yn pynciau gore yn barod hwyr y bore, nid pell oddi wrth ein drysau yw dyddiau clan me clir. Which is, we beseech you, fair family, give leave for us to sing. The corn and meadows are greening, growing over the land. The cuckoo is singing her best, ready late and morning. Not far from our doorsteps are the merry days of May.
He's made to do a podcast, isn't he?
I know.
I'm trying to interrupt, but I'm like, no, keep going, keep going.
Don't do it.
No.
So I'll get to the point of it now.
Good luck, Gabe.
You're going to do well on this podcast, my friend.
Yes.
I suppose for me, the making cider is not first and foremost about making booze, although that is a happy coincidence of the whole thing. It's, and at the risk of sounding like a terrible cunt, it's sort of about figuring out some kind of dance, some kind of conversation, some sort of process with the orchard, and this particular method for me, like, I think really speaks to that, because I see that it kind of is, there's a mirroring with what's going on in the orchard at all points in the process. So when the ciders are of, like, once they've gone through that first vigorous fermentation, and as things start to, like, as that, winter cold starts to deepen, the sap's falling down in the trees, the fermentation's quietening down in the tanks, and we bottle at that exact point when things are like the soil's just starting to warm up, the sap's just starting to rise, spring hasn't quite sprung, but it's just about getting there, and that's when we bottle. And so when that the kind of warmth and the rise of energy that's bringing the whole orchard out in flowers in the spring is that same. It's that same awakening that's going on in the bottle that's waking up the yeast, that's working through the honey, that's creating that that fizz and that energy in the bottle, so that when that, after it's aging and it's gone through all that, when you pull that cork and that pop and that kind of release of aroma and energy is that memory of that waking up in the orchard from spring 2023, that would be if it was a 2022 harvest.
It's definitely a lively one, and like the aroma's insane. Like, it's proper kind of like white floral and treacle. It just smells so deep. But I wanted to ask, with the honey, do you do honey trials, or was it just like what we've got in the sense of place? Like, how do you decide on that kind of element of it?
We're extremely lucky in that we've got on the farm where I've been making the cider this year, and it's just down the road from where we were last year, is a couple of young chaps that have started making honey, and it's a commercial venture, but they're producing honey of extremely high quality, and all the hives they sort of follow the flowers. So the hives go over to Shrewsbury in the early spring, and they have a spring crop there. Then they come back to the Dyfi Valley for the whole of the summer, and then that summer crop is taken late July, early August. So, and that's that's collected from from flowering plants from a kind of 3 or 4 mile radius or whatever around that farm, which is a very similar radius where we're getting a lot of our apples from. And they do a pollen analysis. So this year, well, as in that 2022 year was bramble and clover mostly.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Bramble and clover. Yeah. It was on the tip of your tongue there, Martyn. Bramble and clover, and that's being harvested at the exact same at the time when the apples are starting to ripen in the orchard. So it's all kind of relating to the same vintage kind of thing, which feels really good.
That seems to be that kind of synergy between the cider and the bottle and the land seems to be vital to your cider. How do you see keeping that going as you kind of grow or as you move forward and try different things? Like how important is that? Is that the thing you want to keep at the heart of it always?
Absolutely, and that's a really good question. It's something that I've been thinking about quite a bit as we're thinking through how we would grow, because that synergy, that relationship is what got me. I was interested in apple trees before I was interested in cider, sort of thing. We had this massive apple tree out in the back garden when I was growing up, which I just sort of, as you do, you take your childhood experiences as a sort of base, as a touchstones for things. Like I sort of assumed all apple trees were like that. And it was only after going out into the world and meeting a lot of other orchards where I was like, actually quite how special that tree was. It was like a proper full-on climbing, swing off the branches, hide in the middle of it kind of tree. And that was, yeah. And so I think having that closest with the trees is what got me interested in making cider. And then you think as you get, the bigger you get and the more you kind of expand and stretch yourself, the less, then you have to start getting crews of people in to help you gather the apples and the less time you have out. So I think that for me that's kind of how I measured where I want the business to go. I want to grow insofar as I can still be in contact with it all, kind of thing, I suppose is what I'd say.
Yeah.
So cider wise, what are we thinking, guys? Any notes? Gabe seems to be doing something different.
For me, you mentioned the pollen and the kind of beeswax. There's a waxiness on the finish that's I maybe wouldn't have really picked out before, until you sort of mentioned that those kind of floral notes in the pollen. But yeah, I when I saw there was honey in it, I was like, it's going to taste like honey in it. It kind of doesn't, No. It's maybe I'm trying to think back if I've had a cider made in this way before. Probably not. But I love it. It's incredible, beautiful color, perfect carbonation, and just goes for days as well. Finishes incredible.
That tannic structure and the carbonation that's there, it feels like little prickles. It's a really interesting cider, and that aroma is like it's out of this world, man.
Well, obviously everything, any story, any person associated with the Neutral Cider Hotel, it always links back to tax in the end, doesn't it? Everybody bring it back.
Here he is.
He's back in the game. Sorry, I was fiddling about trying to plug in my laptop, which was about to die. But I had the pleasure of meeting Sam last year. He was doing some cider training that I was undertaking, and it was a fascinating sort of story. As you can see, Sam is quite the storyteller, and then he was like, and I'm going to do this bottle conditioning and I'm going to do the priming with honey, which of course is not a permitted ingredient on drinks that are taxed as cider. And so that's obviously a bit tricky, but the changes in the duty legislation have possibly tempered the immense challenge that it might have been once before. But certainly what I had no appreciation or expectation was like just how well would the honey act as a priming sugar. I don't know anything about the types of sugars that exist within the honey. And I think I might have tasted one cider before that had been primed, and it was a bit limp from a carbonation point of view. Whereas to open this, it's
what about other points of view? Was it limp in other ways?
Yes, it was, but we're not going to talk about that. Yeah,
should we explore that?
No, let's move on. And the impressive pop that this cider gave. But without sort of a gushing out is testament A to your skill as a cider maker, but B to the fact that it does work. It does work, which is pretty impressive stuff. And for me, it's I know you said about bramble and clover. You're wrong. It's more sort of the almost like the heather type characteristics that are really sort of coming out for me in there. But it's a wonderful cider and is really evocative. And I know that everything you're talking about is about sort of terroir, and you're interested in exploring the concept of what that means in terms of sense of place. The terroir of Wilko's car park. That's what I really want to know. Steph, the terroir of Wilko's car park. Your sort of cider making sort of adventures. Have you been sort of on a similar path of like wild ferment in the early ciders that you were kind of doing, or have you been doing something different?
More self-fighting. I mean, our paths are different in that I didn't discover cider community and other cider people basically at all until Sam appeared. I was just sort of quite busily tucked away doing my own thing. I mean, there's the internet, which is amazing, so you can get hold of some rudimentary information.
Hang on. So you're saying that you were just living in an isolation bubble. So my wife's from Zimbabwe. We went to visit Zimbabwe a couple of years ago, and we met a Zimbabwean cider maker who had learnt everything by watching Reverend Nat on YouTube. Are you saying that Mid Wales is the same as the Eastern Highlands in Zimbabwe from a sort of technological?
Exactly the same.
Point of view?
Yeah, I was living the life of Tydecho, essentially. In my cider cell, pretty much alone. But with the internet, I mean, he had mysticism, I had the World Wide Web. Mine was clearly more powerful. And I came across the Whitnam Hill cider portal of all places.
Good Dr. Andrew Lee.
Dr. Andrew Lee, and I loved it. It's a great place to start, I thought. He sort of was advocating sulfites and sort of, semi-sulfiting and stuff like that. So that's sort of how I started doing it for no other reason. And then I think I tried a wild fermented cider that was a bit off. And that sort of maybe knocked my confidence to go down that route. And I made one batch of my own that had a really bad hydrogen taint. Again, that sort of thing puts you off, doesn't it? And it wasn't really until I tried Sam's that, I could kind of see that there was something to it, because it tasted bloody lovely, and all of it tasted bloody lovely. But yeah, my challenge was because I wasn't integrated into any sort of cider community, and was very much in my square mileage was making cider that balances out properly. The challenge was how to make a cider that people would drink without spitting out. I'm talking sort of general consumption, not cider masochists, of which I count myself. Because, well, I mean, if you make something yourself, you drink it, don't you? So you learn to love it, and I quite like a high acid. But the first ciders I made, where I was a bit indiscriminate, you found people would struggle to get through it, especially when you're making it dry, right? So it was finding a very fine balance of what would work, and that really ended up being maybe 3 or 4 of the different types of tree in that particular orchard that would balance out. I kind of had to leave the others, which is a different kind of kettle of fish really to Sam, where you've had access to some really good sweets and bitter sweets from Monmouth, and been able to balance a larger volume and with total success, as you can taste with the Clanmay. Yeah.
So while Steph was sneaking around like a dodgy bugger in Wilko's car park, I've been going off and offering decent per tonnage prices to orchard owners up and down the country. I was very, very, very lucky to have been introduced to the vast wealth of unpicked fruit in Monmouthshire through Mike Pinney. Like we go around, and so I've always had access to that fruit, and it's a bit of a twat of a drive down there, but it's not too bad really in the grand scale of things. It definitely pays its way in terms of what you can having what those bittersweets bring to the mix sort of thing. And then we just happened to stumble upon this by relative to West Northwest Walian, Mid Walian standards, a pretty big orchard in Dinas Mowddwy, 3 or 4 acres of kind of traditional space trees, which is where we get most of the. Whereas I was getting most of the fruit, and then I've since then. So as soon as you start looking, and people know that you're looking, it's a sort of domino thing, and then you start to patch together.
Someone's buying them, quick!
Yeah,
sell them everything.
And I was chatting with Lydia from Artistro about this, because we're in a position where like fruit's really scarce. We see that it has a really high value, but the market value is not even enough to motivate people to even pay any attention to their orchards. So we've been kind of like offering. We were both kind of doing this independently. Then we started having a bit of a chat about it, of like actually that it makes a lot of sense in some ways to offer above the going rate for apples to get people invested in their orchards, because I've got no security there. They could turn around tomorrow and say, we're grubbing it out, or someone else is having them, or whatever, and so I think if we, like, it's still, even paying 140 quid a ton or whatever, it's still peanuts at the end of the grand scale of things, and it still doesn't make a big difference to the capital cost per bottle, but it communicates something to the orchard owners that I think puts us in a stronger kind of position going into the future, sort of thing.
Incentivizing the circular economy there.
Yeah. Good jargon there, Martyn. There you go.
Synergy.
We don't have a huge amount of fruit to up the scale though, hey Sam. Like if we're looking ahead and thinking, how are we going to get to whatever 1,000 literage, we're going to hit a bit of a supply issue, aren't we? And raiding the trees in Granny's backyard times however many hundreds, probably not that appealing for
100 grannies
mileage. 100 grannies.
Everyone's got grannies.
It's about 1,000 litres maybe. Depends how dwarfing her rootstock is.
If there are any grannies listening, go on the speak pipe, send us a message.
Give us your 3 words coordinates, and Steph will be like a shot.
Steph,
without
I'll
his
be
head
there.
torch. Yeah.
Anyway, you mentioned Sam. You mentioned Lydia from Artistro there. I just wondered if there were any specific cider makers that you're inspired by, or both of you really, if you're any specific cider makers you're inspired by, or that you look up to. Sorry, yes, Steffan, not interested. No.
So fights, get at it.
Yeah, we know your fucking story. No, are there any specific cider makers that you look up to? You obviously mentioned the guy you work with in Wales, but
yeah, many and hundreds of them. Well, not hundreds, but yeah, I've learned I've benefited a lot from having become part of this kind of cider making community, largely thanks to Gabe and his Pomelier course, which is kind of how I got into this whole world, really, and was very, very kind of very eagerly welcomed in, and then came to the salon in Bristol and connected with all sorts of people. I also happened to I think one of the greatest chance meetings was I was up at a wedding in Scotland. I'd been dragged away in the middle of pressing and was by my ex-partner, and was extremely bad mood. And so she thought, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm going to have to find him a shop with some bottles of cider in it somewhere. So we managed to find some time to go to the St Andrew's wine shop in the morning, where there was a bottle of Peter Crawford's Norton traditional method on the counter. And it turns out that the shop owner, good friends with him, and he quickly called Peter. He's like, I've got someone in here. He seems to know a thing or two about cider. You should, or at least he thinks he does. Yeah, I'll
come show him. Come show him what we're really done.
And so, yeah, we went down to Peter's place the following morning after the wedding, and that was an amazing kind of an amazing eye-opening experience. Going into the real depths of traditional method stuff, which is not where I decided to go after that, but like it was a really kind of powerfully informative kind of hour or so walking around.
So how much champagne did he make you drink?
Not a single drop, actually.
Oh,
The tight bastard.
He is such a tight bastard. We call him champagne. We call him Champagne Pete round here.
Champagne Pete. Yeah.
No, it's spice cider's incredible.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, then obviously Mike. I mean, I've more or less everything I know about the vast bulk of my kind of knowledge of cider has come through Mike Penny of Truggy, who is a bit of a hermit, really. Like he's sort of he's not really kind of put himself out there. I suppose he doesn't really have to. I suppose he's got his mutton chops are strong enough. He doesn't really have to worry about.
He's almost outside of kind of South Wales. People won't have heard of Troggy. He's a very, very, very small producer, but was a real pioneer of naturally sparkling cider within kind of the UK, like 3 counties. So he's been going to like the Big Apple since its inception, really, in kind of the early 90s, and so was in a cohort with James Marsden from Greg's Pit and Mr. Oliver and Mike from Ross Cider and things like that. So he's always kind of like been doing his thing, sort of small scale, under the radar. He's a doctor. Is he a GP? I think, Sam.
Pathologist. So he was a pathologist. He was a pathologist at Monmouth Hospital.
Wow. Martyn's head is just working overtime now for an appropriate sort of death-related quote.
I thought you were just going to say, like, my head looks stupid. I was like, what is this going on?
What,
Bring it back to the fucking cider.
I wouldn't say that. Yes. So a great mentor to have, Sam, and in terms of that sparkling technique. Also, I know that you fairly recently did a trip to the Basque Country, and interested what kind of you learned from the cider perspective, but also, I suppose, kind of like sort of cultural ties between the Basque and the Welsh, trading routes, Celts, and all that kind of stuff.
So I think one of the big takeaways from going to Galleria was building up some confidence in the acidity of the fruit in West Wales, which I like. Is Steffan and I both. This was something that we bonded over massively. Was like how do we work with this extremely and potentially very off-putting acidity in the fruit here? But because the Southeast Wales cider kind of culture is very much a kind of extent, or it's very related to Herefordshire, really similar techniques, climate, varieties, the same red sandstone soil belt, and it's still part of that. If it's not bittersweets or bitter sharps, it's not worth making cider sort of school of thought. So that was how I'd come into making cider, was seeing that I had, that anything less than a 50% bittersweet blend was not worth making. So then going out and going out and kind of experiencing the Sagardor and the Ushgal Sagardor was like, wow, this is so kind of unashamedly balls out, acid forward, can be, extremely rough, but can also be really, really fine and complex, and pairs. So, the whole cuisine there is built up around it, the kind of rich, fatty seafood, meats, cheeses, kind of combinations that cider just works so well with it. And it was far more acidic than anything I'd ever even dreamed of making. So I thought, well, if you can pull this off, we can.
It's sometimes so acidic that you want to get hold of the apples to know how they got it that acidic. It's that impressively acidic, isn't it? It's like that's taking it to another extreme, to the point where that it's sought after. There's obviously pride in it. I think one of the learnings for me of tasting the wild yeast fermented stuff is you can get away with a lot more acidity. There's just so much more sweetness brought through by the yeast or just the general kind of body of life that has brought that to where it is. It's nowhere near as dry. Maybe there's a little bit more residual sugar. I think the SGs drop out a little bit higher as well, but it's more than that. There's just a sweetness in the flavour, isn't there, that feels a bit different. But the Bass stuff's got like sort of intense kind of pineapple-ness as well that I haven't really tried that much in wild fermented. But as you know, I'm a hermit, so I haven't tried that much cider. at the latest cider salon, what are the name of that Cornish cider company, Sam?
Ripe.
Ripe, yeah. Now their stuff, like the second bottle of theirs that I tried, that tasted kind of yeah. It had a bit of that kind of twang to it, and that was interesting.
You want to try
fully what? Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, say.
You want to try Ryan,
right.
Ryan from Caledonia. I don't know if he was there this year, was he?
He wasn't.
No.
He didn't know I was coming.
Yeah,
that's outrageous. Andy heard.
Like you scrumped your apples from Wilco. He would have got his microphone that we recorded the podcast from. So. Go on. What's the cider you're recommending to try from them?
It's called. Well, he did one called Hash and Blaster this year. He uses a lot of Gaelic language actually on his labels, and I think that means this is tasty or this is awesome or something. But it's from either one tree or like 5 trees just up near Loch Ness that only fruit every 5 years or something like that, and it's incredible. It like, you know, if you actually just poured it from the bottle without a label and you didn't know, you would probably swear it was a Basque cider. It's incredible. I think maybe Abel's the only place that's got any left. So
here we go. There you go. That's the old sales pitch. Yeah, listen, Steffan. I need to sell my shop, but
I'll send you a couple. Don't worry, I'll send you. You guys sent me this. I can return the favor. But Ryan stuff though. When you talk about acidity, obviously, you know, Scotland is very similar in terms of what you were describing with North Wales, where, you know, we don't have tannic fruit traditionally here. So the cider that's made with fruit that hasn't been introduced for that purpose is, you know, dessert fruit, crab apples, loads of Bramley, shitloads of Bramley. We love an apple crumble up here. So we've
got a lot of crab around here, haven't we, Sam? Yeah, plenty of crab.
Terrible crabs. It's
great.
Do you not see? Is it not exciting to see that there's? I don't know. I've noticed that just in the past few years that, you know, Sam, you mentioned that kind of, if it's not bittersweet, not bitter sharp, what's the point in making a cider with it? You know, there's definitely a movement away from that. I find with more
counterculture to it,
kind of modern cider makers. That's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you say, cider's coming down from Scotland, up from the southwest. You know, Cornwall and Devon. Ripe and Find and Foster have been doing amazing stuff with kind of really like ancient, quite often kind of unnamed, kind of sharp and well, I suppose in particular the ones that Find and Foster are working with are really similar to some of the ones we've got in West Wales, where you've got these massive old trees, no one knows what the fuck they are, and they're these kind of pretty sharp, quite aromatic, kind of multi-purpose cucurita sort of apples. And yeah, so that, and they would definitely be up there with cider makers that have had a big impact on us and the way we're, you know, thinking about what we're doing. Like, yeah, people like Ripe and Find and Foster and Wilding as well. It's been really great to connect with that kind of younger generation of makers who've all come up and into the world of cider from kind of quite different angles and have like a lot of really interesting things to kind of chuck into the cauldron. And that, you know, I've done a number of things over the last 10 or so years, worked in a number of different kind of like like lines of work and stuff. And I've not. So the cider industry is by far the most open kind of community, like working community I've ever been a part of. There's this kind of more or less unanimous kind of feeling that like if you're mad enough to start making cider commercially, we'll tell you everything we know, and more cider is better for all. More cider makers is better for all cider makers, kind of thing. That you're building a market, you're kind of co-creating it, and that is such a special thing to get to be a part of, really.
Sam, tell us about in that 10 years of experience prior to getting to cider, what has been the weirdest or most interesting work experience that you have had along the way? Something tells me you've done some fun stuff.
His eyes went, I don't think he's got anything. You look like you caught him there. He went, shit.
I've mostly been bothering sheep for the last 10 years.
In a professional or personal capacity?
That is to say, shepherding. Well, the line, strictly professional. Strictly professional.
Very good.
So I've mostly been shepherding.
Just 2 weeks ago, they were saying, "Oh, we've really like upped our game here. We're not as kind of like smutty and not as low as we used to be."
It's the guests that bring us down. That's the problem. Go on, Sam.
I've enjoyed every minute of it.
There's great jokes about anyway, no, we won't go there. Anyway, so largely been shepherding, working on hill farms around Machynlleth. I've also I've done various part-time jobs in sort of ag adjacent stuff, working for conservation organizations and a farmers union, and then have been kind of parallel involved in playing music professionally and writing and stuff. So different kind of circles, all of which there's a lot of bullshit and gatekeeping and kind of politics. Is it's not purely that, but like there's more often than not there's that element is present more or less anywhere you go, and which is why it stands out that that's not there in the cider world, sort of thing.
Bravo, and Cider's very proud to say that. What about you, Steph? What's been your journey to this point, other than being a professional hermit, of course?
Well, alongside the hermitage, I've worked in youth homelessness. I've been a support worker. I mean, that's a job. It's a job, but sort of more latterly, housing policy, guys. Big shout out for housing policy.
In the news today. Big in the news today.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so housing policy for the Welsh Government, second homes policy. Let's not open that one. Definitely too political. I have signed Secrets Acts and various other stuff.
Martyn's got 2 second homes, in fact.
Yeah, good for you, Martyn.
My second home.
Attaboy. What one? You got to have one to wash the other one down. And so I mean that sort of side things. But then alongside that, you've got the grey world, haven't you? You've got the grey job, and there's a temptation to go into cider, isn't there, to kind of escape that. There's also a little piece of kind of sanity which stops me from maybe wanting to go hook, line and sinker, because it's tricky balancing things out, isn't it? But alongside that, I'm just into growing things. I mean, the fruit and the orcharding, the trees probably excite me about as much as making the cider afterwards. I'm a keen orchardist and a keen grower. I also keep bees, which is a kind of handy number when it comes to Sam's cider. So we essentially not have to go out and buy kilos and kilos of honey, and we can set up the hives
in the
orchards when the trees are coming into flower.
You want to get into bees?
You want to get into honey making, Steph? By the way.
Oh no! I mean, this was a marriage made in heaven. This was because Steph was already way off. Out in the bush with his beehives at the foot of a remarkable crabapple tree, actually, as it happens. Nice. It's great because
goes in the mix. It's a hell of a tree.
The honey is the second after the bottle. The honey is the most expensive thing that goes into the bottle of the ciders. It's a big capital cost. So if we can be doing that ourselves,
but there are also, there are darker ways of making cider. For being, there are more chemically bound ways of making cider, of which I've followed avidly, and it's the same with beekeeping. And I keep bees without pumping any kind of pesticide in there, any miticide or any of that kind of stuff. And I feel like if we're going to be true to what we're doing, it makes sense to do that. And the only way to be 100% sure of that really is probably to do it yourself.
Are we saying that like Tate and Lyle is the same as like cyanide? Is that what we're saying here? Or is it
absolutely, Gabe?
The degree of difference between the two.
Tate Lyle,
silver spoon, glyphosate, all the same.
Tate Lyle, it's killing our kids. You should probably cut that. I don't want to be sued. It may be killing our kids.
I mean, I think we just found the top of the episode, Scott. Just
killing our kids.
Mark that up.
Yeah, 1 pound of blubber at a time.
With you guys, you've both said that the area had no kind of like information. It was kind of a desert at that point when you started, and you didn't really know who to kind of go to, really. But what would you say to someone making cider, thinking about starting today, making cider, and where you're from?
Come and see us. I mean, we're pretty early on the journey, and like more shovels, more grafting knives, more hands, more people to drink it, more places to sell it, the better. But it's exciting because there aren't that many. There are some of us, but there aren't a huge amount, and it means we can kind of put our own stamp on it. Also, like we don't speak anything but Welsh to each other. Like we operate pretty much all the time in Welsh, and that doesn't come across here because we're speaking English. We love English. English is wonderful. It's a gorgeous language.
Is it?
Where we are, it's the predominant. It is. It's gorgeous. It's a big, rolly, kind of lolling, bountiful mountain of a language. It's great. Where Welsh it's different. It's got a different feel to it. It's got a different personality to it. It's clipped. It's sharp. It's crisp in a way that's quite different. And it's fun to push our cider in that language and in that cultural setting. Community is also a really big thing. Not just community around cider, but geographic communities. So we can kind of feed into that, and it's important to us that what we do makes the places that we live in, the place that we love, better. That being too much of a monk, you can see I've been in my cell. But it's true. I mean, Sam, is that fair?
Yeah, totally. And I think that the thing about communities is a really important note, right? Like, I think that was certainly for me, and I think for you, Steffan, one of the things that brought us together was that for us, like, making cider is, although we're totally obsessed with it, and we'll go as deep as anyone down into all the kind of dark nooks and crannies. It's not really about that. It's about being a kind of fulcrum for something beyond it. And I think what's really exciting about the site we'll be moving to in the end of this summer is that it really gives us the opportunity to explore that kind of cider making as being kind of part of a broader community kind of thing. So Powys County Council, in their infinite wisdom, came on their environmental health inspection of the current shed and condemned it, gave us a 1-star rating on the basis that it wasn't
that sack of Wilco's Reds that I brought down.
There's a great line in the letter, I can find it, something about sharing the space with too many birds. How many birds is enough? Is okay? That's what I'd like to know. Where's the line?
7 birds, fine. 9, get out.
All the nutrient in the shit. I mean, that's in.
Yeah, if it's a bit of a weak year, you might just open up the airlocks and just hope we get a good, with a good aim or whatever. But they said, look, basically, if you want to carry on making cider here, you need to build whitewashed food safe unit inside the shed, not just for the bottling, but also for where the bottles are stored, which is mental. I've never heard. We compared notes of various different people. It turns out this is a thing that happens in non-traditional cider making areas where you've got local authorities that haven't got Cornwall. I've heard from someone down there. When they had their coming up for their inspection, they just got a call from council said, "Oh, cider makers, well, you're obviously so low risk. It's not even worth us coming out." Fine. And then,
the old logic of most pubs still is that you don't need to clean lines because cider cleans it for you. So you can drill that right down. If cider's been in the culture of the area, that people do not give a shit, which is horrible.
Yeah.
But I do feel that 278 birds in your place might be too many. That's
278, 277, is it's a wonderful thing having back chat from swallows. I've never had so much ag from swallows. They are extremely aggy birds. Like when they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? This was like a lovely shed full of shit last year, and now you're in here running this operation, making all sorts of noise. Yeah. So they're just, you stood up there thinking you're having this lovely moment communing with this bird, and it's really just telling you to fuck off.
Yeah, you better not be eating sulfates, you prick.
Welcome.
Swallows fucking hate sulfates.
Long story short,
sends them right the way back to Africa.
Long story short, Powys have more or less kicked us out, and so which was a bit of a ball ache at the time. But then we thought, so the plan was Steph was going to come down to us for a couple of years, then we'd look for a location that was more convenient because we're about an hour. We live about an hour away from each other. And so,
I didn't bribe Powys before you asked. He may be moving to my valley, but I did not bribe
Steph, who's letting all these birds in
I
here?
work for government, but yeah, second homes, honestly. Nothing to do with Powys food hygiene.
Sam, I really think we should get rid of the roof. I think.
Build a couple of nests,
maybe. Al fresco.
Leave a cheese trail for the rats to come into. So yeah, after Steph had laid all these exceptionally well thought out snags for Powys, we've ended up finding this spectacular space, which is like a mile away from where he lives.
How convenient.
It's, top of the valley from me.
The Hermit's master plan comes
very
to fruition.
Picturesque.
There we go.
We could imagine a motley crew of the world's finest cider people coming up there, held by mountains, looking out to sea. Very nice indeed.
Go on, Steph. Explain Café Croissant.
Well, it's community owned. Used to be a farm. It's got a barn attached. A good kind of stone and wood building that could be a cider house.
Does it have a roof?
And hopefully will be barely a roof. It's got some serious issues with the walls. It's structurally potentially unsound. I think Gwynedd Council might have a thing or two to say about it, to be honest. But second time's a treat, isn't it, Sam? We've decided we're gonna flirt with them royally. We're gonna get them in there. We're gonna give them the real treatment. There is, but there's nowhere near as romantic.
It's second home.
You could get an 18-tonner in there easy. The other place, can't you, Sam? But we prefer to be somewhere that's incredibly romantic and incredibly impractical. Because we're sort of that way inclined, aren't we? I mean, I say all of that. It does have some benefits. The fact it's community owned means that we can work with the community. We can get grants to get sort of something a little bit more bespoke there. They're really lovely, really want us there, which is nice. And there's room for like 2 or 3 other businesses to be there, including potentially some food. It's a popular walking spot. We could have, some rampant community cross-pollination there.
Rampant.
How could you not want that? Yeah. You could be, in a purpose-built workshop on an industrial estate, and that would be a hell of a lot easier in many, many, many ways.
Cheaper,
and maybe we'll rue the day. Potentially even cheaper, not on rent, but on all the other evil.
Yeah, much less romantic and much less rampant, obviously.
Way less.
before we do wrap up the interview, one thing that we have neglected to talk about is the name. And Steph, you did actually make mention to yourself as being akin to Tydecho. Who is Tydecho? And was he as much of a hermit as you?
I think only Sam can answer.
Tydecho was a 6th century saint who was born in Brittany and then traveled over to Britain. And the story goes he was followed. He had a second home up in Llanymothe. So yeah,
he did, but nobody wanted it. He wouldn't have worked as a primary resident. It's all right. You pay a flat tax. Don't you worry about Tydecho. He's one of our boys. He really contributed, didn't he, Sam?
Yeah, he's not there all year, but he does still contribute when he is there, like sort of thing. Anyway, so he came up with this crew of goats. So the story goes, how the hell they got all the goats over from Brittany, no one knows. And he said, right, I'm going to keep on walking until you guys lay down and go to sleep, which didn't happen. They didn't stop to rest until they made their way up to Llanymothe, which is like, so say they went from Brittany, got over to whatever, Dover or wherever. They didn't stop walking till they got to more or less the west coast of Wales. So I'm sure he was pretty chuffed by the time they did lie down. And for a place to lie down, it's about one of the most Pediang Hysbell is his name.
Remote,
one of the remotest places you can imagine. Even today, so in the 6th century, that would have been quite a place. And then he promptly settled and started farming there. And there are just some excellent stories that. So context. Most of our apples, so the 2 main orchards that we gather from the top of our valley, are from the 2 of the 4 parishes associated with Tydecho. That's the starting.
He probably planted them, didn't he, Sam?
Yeah. He made a comeback 20 years ago and planted. He made a grant application to Tir Cymru, Welsh government orchard planting scheme. Almost certainly. There is actually a crabapple tree really close to where his face is, which we should go and find. Yeah, so there's a rock. There's a rock, which is, if you look on the back of your battles, you'll see on the right-hand side, there is an outline of a sort of thing that looks a bit like a face. That is a rock just above the footpath near the Lleithnant, which is the stream which is the name of the river Dyfi at its beginnings. And I'd read somewhere that there was this rock where you could see Tydecho's face in the rock. So I went for a walk and I thought I'd be sat there for hours, kind of doing handstands and looking through my legs, looking at rocks at all sorts of different angles and say, can I sort of see a face there? But no, it's when you see it. It's quite striking. It has this really quite intense feel of a man with a prominent nose and a very heavy, a furrowed brow looking out down over the valley. And they say that's Tydecho's face, which felt like a very strong, image that kind of spoke to the kind of way which we were trying to make cider. And there's great stories about him ploughing and his goats get stolen. And the thief comes back the next day and he's ploughing with deer pulling the harrow and a wolf pulling the deer pulling the plough and the wolf pulling the harrow. And one of the milkmaids tripping and spilling her milk in the stream and crying and waking him up, and he comes out. Yeah, he was a dude. He hung out. So with
what it sounds like. Look, he was a very religious man.
Milkmaids and golden horses. He was a pimp of a dude there.
It's back when religion was really cool.
Yeah. And instead of getting all aggy with her for spilling the milk, he just as a would with the stream, and the stream turns to milk. Which I thought, so we named one of the ciders Lleithnant is the name of the stream, which means the milk stream, because of that story. And where that happened is called Rhydygerwyn, the ford of the Pale. And I thought that was a great name, not only because it's the river at the start of the valley, but also we have a pretty strong history of like Methodist extremism in Mid Wales, and a lot of teetotaling and that kind of thing. So I thought it was just a nice little that was a fun joke.
There you go. Just imagine what happened to the river if the swallows had asked something as well. Those were majorly aggy, whereas just the chill Tydecho. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us that we're quite enthralled by the sound of the Welsh language. It's you say that the English is quite big and kind of rolling. We're all kind of going, whoa. Would either of you, Sam, one of you, do us the honor of saying welcome and hello to the Neutral Cider Hotel in your fair language?
Steff, na dy hwnna I chdi, yeah?
That's so beautiful.
Croeso ag helo i'r hotel Seidir Neutral.
Neutral. There you go. You see, add a little bit of an accent on the end. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Gents, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy hermitageness to come down to the Neutral Cider Hotel and share your fantastic stories individually and of this new cider scene that's emerging within Wales. I think there's lots more to come. There's certainly lots more to come from Seidir Tydecho. If Llanmay is anything to go by, it's got a very strong identity, story, and flavour profile. And looking forward to tasting some of the really more considerably acid-driven, eye-watering ciders too. Chaps, where for anybody who's listening, where should they head to in order to learn a little bit more about Seidir Tydecho?
The Instagram account is probably, that's it. That's all we got. The website.
There we go. That's it. Very good.
Yeah.
And what is
they want to buy any of it, then
how do you say what an Instagram? How do you say an Instagram thing? Fuck. This says it all, doesn't it? At Seidir _Tydecho.
You might spell that phonetically. It'll be in the show notes.
There you
go. We need to learn from you plug lords. Clearly, I mean we're
that's an insult in the UK, Steffan.
Do you know what you said in English, Steph? Plug lord. How dare you? How dare you? I can tell you with some great excitement that actually this very cider that we've been tasting this evening, Llanmay, is now available to purchase right now, as of now, from our dear friends at The Cat in the Glass. You can purchase this cider so you can see and taste exactly what it is that we've been going on right now. Go check it out. Sam, Steph, again, thank you so much for doing this. We've had an absolute hoot tonight. It's been brilliant chatting with you and learning everything. So thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing what your adventures take you on going forward. So thanks for coming down to the hotel.
Diolch galon, boys. Diolch am gael ni hynno, de.
Diolch yn fawr yr ogia.
So there we go. Sam and Steph, quite the entertaining duo in the hermitage of Mid Wales sheepness. What do we think about them? What do we think about the cider?
First off, I am a sucker for the Welsh accent.
Oh,
it is kryptonite to me. Yeah. And I mean, apologies to you, Scott, for not interrupting at all, because could let that man fucking talk for a whole day.
Yeah. Well, just so romantic, but with real, I don't know, backbone to it.
Yeah.
In terms of the cider making, it wasn't just like, oh, we want to do this and we want to do that. And it's like, they've got a plan and they've got a clear vision. And yeah, the guy's a shepherd, of course. I didn't get to ask him. I read an interview, the one interview that exists, I think, that he sent through, Scott, where it said he was like freight train hopping in the US when he was 23 or something. Really,
hang on. We didn't go into that. Yeah. I didn't even know.
There was no opportunity. I was like, right, I'm going to get the freight train thing in.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. Sam, obviously you're going to be listening because you love the Neutral Cider Hotel. Can you leave us a speak pipe about your experiences of freight train hopping in the USA? It's just so we can hear your lovely dulcet tones once again.
Gabe did the pickup. Grant did the masterful poke there. Lovely. The actual cider itself, I was blown away by that aroma. It was terrific. And like treacly sweetness. It didn't just have like honey and then apples. It was like the tannin, the structure, the acidity, the carbonation. It's like russety, alive, like real chewing through an apple, honey blossom. It was just, yeah, I could drink 2 bottles of that in about 3 minutes, I think.
I think what I'm really enjoying about it is that it's obviously got this tannic element, but it doesn't taste like a Herefordshire cider. It doesn't taste like a Somerset cider. It doesn't taste like a dessert eating apple kind of cider. It has a real identity and character of its own. And I don't know how much of that is down to like the honey influence. I think it might be quite strong, actually.
Do you think? I didn't think the honey was that strong. Like.
Yeah, but not necessarily in tasting honey-esque. But there is a savouriness, and there is this florality thing that isn't just like, you know, white flowers, jasmine-y elderflower. It's more herbaceous. It's deeper. It's deep like Welsh roots.
You're doing the accent. You're going in.
Deep like his gorgeous blue eyes.
But
is he French? Deep like his gorgeous blue eyes. Mine's like fucking smoke at 80 a day. Deep like his blue eyes. Did that. Very sorry, Sam.
No, it was great. I felt like the honey element to it was a kind of more a beeswax, like a raw honey, like you know, when you get it in the honeycomb still, and it's not just like super sweet. You get this kind of savoury waxiness after the fact. That was brilliant, so good, and so cool that was the well. He said it wasn't the second. It wasn't like a secondary fermentation, was it? It was a sort of continuation of the first fermentation.
Yeah, sort of bolstered of the first, so kind of like a primary and a secondary, all in one go. Again, just quite unique and just doing their own thing and taking influences from other people. I just like their approach to things, and obviously they're quite good fun at the same time. There we go.
Not for the vegans, but
there we go. Poor old vegans. All right, there we go. Now, let's move on to our final segment of the show. It's time for Martyn's quiz. And now it's quiz time. And since the one I put together was apparently so very, very easy, I've passed the torch on to Martyn to show us how it should really be done. So, Martyn, what have you got for us?
Well, Gabe, I have, I think we've all had the pleasure of each other's company for so long, and we've had the pleasure of our guest company, and we've learnt a lot. So let's see who has paid attention to the previous episodes. So this game is called Who Do You Think You're Talking To? Now the game.
I think we've done this before.
Oh, but we'll recycle everything. Who cares? Victory lap number 4. This is, each of you have a question. You need to tell me who you were talking to in the episode. So all we need is the cider maker or person's name. Grant, shut the So we're going to take it in turns. Who goes where? I'm going to let Grant choose. Does he want to go first or second in this?
First.
He'll go first. Perfect. That's how I've got it on my sheet anyway. And we will have a tiebreaker. Each question answered correctly is a point. Whoever has the most point wins. So, producer Scott, question number 1 for Grant.
I'm assuming it was you because it was on social media. Messaged after listening, being like, "No, it's true. We definitely do it. Thanks for mentioning it." How did you discover? What were you trying to cook?
One more time, just to help him out.
I know.
You know.
I need to say who the question was for.
Who were you talking to?
Lydia from Artistraw.
Oh, he's only gone and got it. It
How
was.
do you remember that?
Because there's the labels. They make their own glue, right? Is that not what it was?
And Grant was
Yes,
very
it was.
obsessed with their label making.
Well, and you made me doubt myself. That's why I remember.
100%.
Yeah.
But I will say that half of that episode then, I was listening to it the other day and it was just Tom on a bad microphone going like, well, I'm a scientist. I've got to eat the thing. So 1-0 and it's penalties. Gabe.
I mean, how long is this Gabe's bit going to be if you're playing a whole question from him?
All right. You just have to wait and see because there is a shocker. All right.
Oh,
Producer Scott.
I'm sorry. I'm generally sorry. I'm sorry.
Not even fresh play yet, listener.
Gabe, you're ironically extending it. Producer Scott.
I'm sorry.
Give us question number 1.
Usher, Ludacris, T.I., Outkast, are you going to be doing a collaboration with Andre 3000? That's the only thing I want to hear.
Is he looking in the mirror?
Oh my god!
Ding, 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 ding. Gabe, who were you? Do you want to hear it again?
Yes,
Because
please.
surprisingly, this was a short one.
Usher, Ludacris, T.I., Outkast, are you going to be doing a collaboration with Andre 3000? That's the only thing I want to hear.
Well,
Do you know?
I mean, no, of course I don't bloody know. I can't remember.
Listen, think about what you were saying and who could that have been to? That combination of people.
I mean, I'm tempted to say Colleen and James from Duck Chicken, but I'm going to hold back. I don't think it is them, actually. I don't know. Who could it be? I mean, is it going to be somebody musical? Is that too obvious? Hey, Ben Gibbard, are you going to do a duet with Andre 3000?
Come on.
I'm going to say Rainn Wilson. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Gabe. The answer was...
Does it not get thrown across?
No.
Doesn't it?
No. All of those musicians were from Atlanta. And so was Andy Hull, Manchester Orchestra. You were chatting, you just started going off on 2000s hip hop.
Well, those are the only other artists from Atlanta. That crunk vibe, you know, just
I don't blame you. There is no culture in that area. So,
no.
Grant, question number
Sorry,
2. Question number 2 for Grant.
Thing of, oh well, if I put another pound on this, then it's probably not going to sell, and I guess that the whole chain of having faith in the people that you sell it to, who are then selling it on for you, like Felix for you guys, and me for other people. But you know, like it is having that knowledge right through the whole chain.
That's not a question.
Oh no, it isn't. That's a long-winded nothing. Who was that to? Do you want it one more time?
Oh yeah, of course.
Thing of, oh well, if I put another pound on this, then it's probably not going to sell, and I guess that the whole chain of having faith in the people that you sell it to, who are then selling it on for you, like Felix for you guys, and me for other people. But you know, like it is having that knowledge right through the whole chain.
Costly stuff with Felix. Who could it be, Grant?
Sam and Becky.
That's who I was going to say. Oh, well, there you go.
It was a polite follow-up to your negging on her labels. It was Polly from Find Foster.
Negging on her labels.
She was like, yeah, I mean, you did really go hard on us there and say they were all shit. So, Gabe.
Yes.
Question number 2 for you.
All right. I'm in.
Now, I want to talk about, you call your ciders or these certainly in these cans you call them craft ciders. That's just because you're trying to appeal to a craft beer drinker. Does craft hold or symbolize anything for you? Now that is what you call snappy journalism, people. Snappy, concise, to the point, no prevaricating, no stumbles, no no just straight laser beam to the point.
Scott, before you begin, Scott, I need you, Gabe, to really think, who could you be saying this to? Like, what? This combination of words, what are you trying to get out of them?
Now, I want to talk about, you call your ciders, or these certainly in these cans, you call them craft ciders. That's just because you're trying to appeal to a craft beer drinker. Does craft hold or symbolize anything for you?
Well, I think that the question still has merit, and maybe I could have been more succinct.
So, Gabe, who has craft on their cans?
I'm going to say Soham from Artifact.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
Is it Sam from Nightingale? That was right.
No, it was Tom Stevens, Rebel Root. Oh my God!
Sorry, Tom. Sorry, Neutral Cider Hotel.
Brilliant.
Sorry, the
My
professional
throat is sore
journalism.
from laughing. That's the first time I've had a sore throat from laughing.
I've got to say, Grant, it's an audio medium. The face you pulled, I've never seen your head do that when you were laughing. That was like,
I think I've pulled a muscle.
That was tough.
That was unbelievable. That sounded like me.
So, Grant,
asking a question.
let's see if you fare up any better on this one. Producer Scott, what's question number 3 for Grant?
Who were you? Did you feel there was an existential crisis there? Was there a crisis of identity? Was like there's something that you'd worked so hard for and it became you, and then all of a sudden it's gone?
I know who that is. Embarrassingly, I know who that is. I think I know who that is.
Go on then, give us a guess.
No, is it Rainn Wilson?
No, that was to Simon Wright of Hawks.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about the identity once the business had been passed on. But I was listening to that clip and I was crying just at that, of the idea of like, so who the fuck are you? It's a great question in the context of the episode, but isolated. My God. We've got one on the board for Grant to bring it to a tie. Question number 3 for Gabe, please, Producer Scott.
You're an orthodontist in Dumfries. You're a tax supervisor in Glasgow. You're a yoga instructor in Yorkshire, and you're also the marketing director for Zizi, based out of London. So they're doing a whole heap of different things right now. It's
wow, yeah, that was
Partridge.
Whom could I have been so wonderfully condescending towards and Partridge? Could you play it again, just so I could try and match up the names with the titles?
You're not allowed to Google it right now.
No.
You're an orthodontist in Dumfries. You're a tax supervisor in Glasgow. You're a yoga instructor in Yorkshire, and you're also the marketing director for Zizi, based out of London. So they're doing a whole heap of different things right now. It's
getting out and about. I'm gonna say Rachel Hendry.
That's correct, Rachel Hendry. The orthodontist from Dumfries. Works for Birham and writes, J'adore Le Planck. Yeah, great guest. Very funny. And my God, that tickled me when I saw that clip. So 1-1. Grant, can you bring the lead? Producer Scott, give us clip number 4.
But yeah, I love it. It's I feel like it bleeds into everything that you do. You know, all the ciders you make, and the passion, I think, comes out in all of that. And that's not something that's easy to do. And it's not something that you can just do. You have to, you have to have it. You have to feel it, and you do that exceptionally well with the ciders you make and the way you present them. It's incredible.
That question. Who was that question to?
Not many questions going on.
I will say, I was expecting games to be long and winding. Grant, some of yours.
Well,
so
you've obviously gone to the end of the interview for most of mine.
I'm telling you for free. This is a quick scroll through, and I've gone, that sounds like a good enough clip. And yours are twice.
Wow.
You want it again, Grant?
Yeah. One more. But I love it. It's I feel like it bleeds into everything that you do. You know, all the ciders you make, and the passion, I think, comes out in all of that. And that's not something that's easy to do. And it's not something that you can just do. You have to, you have to have it. You have to feel it, and you do that exceptionally well with the ciders you make and the way you present them. It's incredible.
Who could it be?
James and Susanna.
It's a favourite of ours. The Original Sin.
I'm gutted. I'm angry at myself. I didn't get that.
You going to apologise to him?
Don't make me do that.
No. Keaton, honestly, absolutely love him. Legend. And that was a tough one. I felt bad for you when I found that clip. But
considering the amount of cider makers we've spoken to who that is true for.
But I needed a long audio clip where it's just you talking, and that.
Fair enough.
Okay, Gabe.
Alrighty.
Question number 4 for you: can you pull the lead?
I'll give my interpretation. I'd be interested to hear whether anybody has anything different. It's about the impact of the place where the fruit is grown, and I would also say where the cider is made, and maybe some of the cultural heritage and the traditions that inform that place and those people who make it. So we're talking about the climate, we're talking about the soil, we're talking about the geology, we're talking about the way that the fruit has been grown, we're talking about the aspect, we're talking about the age of the trees and how many nutrients are put into them over the course of the years, and that you can have the same apple variety or varieties or blends of apples that in different locations and places can produce ciders that taste entirely different because they are the expression of that place and of that time and of those producers. And certainly I think one of the greatest attributes about Little Pomona is that you do, in a short space of time that you've been making cider, you do have, I think, quite a strong identity in the liquids that you produce, partly from the way that you make them, but because you are, in the main, right, utilizing kind of generally the same varieties, often from the same orchards, but your playfulness and creativity means that you get different styles and exponents, but there is some kind of commonality between them. So how do you tease out these different styles and these different interpretations?
You can't have that one again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was good. That was a classic Gabe question. There you go. Could have just gone, how do you tease out these styles?
How do you tease out the styles that you do?
Yeah.
No.
But why do the short question when you can do the extended version? I'm going to say it involves the terrorists themselves, a Little Pomona.
Well, producer Scott didn't censor that clip.
Nope, I realized that as we played it.
Oh my God.
I would have gone for them anyway.
Okay, now just checking my phone now, but okay, yep, that's fine. Yep, cheated there. So
It's all right. Is that the last one?
No, we got more.
No.
Right, okay, cool.
You've
That's
got
fine.
one more, so you can bring it on back. And I think we need to even the playing field here. If there's a struggle, okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Final question for the cheated Grant here. Go on.
What two animals would you combine, and why?
Oh, I know. That's an easy one.
into one beast?
Sexiest chimera. I think that's what we're looking for.
Sex isn't really what I'm looking for.
So, Grant, what are you looking for?
Would it be duck chicken?
Of course.
Perfect.
Bravo.
See,
bravo.
I thought I might need to sway this, and then the first part of it is, so what combination?
What combination of beasts?
Do you know what, as well, that I am just imagining that did come totally out of the blue.
Yeah, you didn't write that down.
Talking about something, like orchards or cider glasses or festivals, and I just went, here, what two beasts would you combine?
The only thing I will say, though, you ask someone who has combined two beasts that they like, what two beasts they would combine. They're the only guest we can't ask that to because they've answered it.
Oh, what a terrible interviewer.
Perfect. I mean, you are in great company with us. So,
Yeah.
final one here. Can he pull through? Gabe, final question.
Hit me.
Part of the exploration is around whether it's around the modernity aspect or around, contemporary drinks and this. Yeah, it's certainly what I perceive in beer and in parts of wine and in parts of cider, that actually it's the lowest tech possible equates to the best or the highest skilled or the most valued, and trying to tease that apart and frankly disagreeing with it, which is why I really appreciated sort of what you were saying there. It's quite interesting. And that was just to say thank you.
Wow, I don't even understand what I'm saying there. I really
think we can play that one again. God, Gabe, give us a clue. Give us think who it could be.
So somebody who can talk about minimal intervention cider doesn't do minimal intervention. Well, not minimal intervention, but craft. Oh shit! I'm gonna go somebody USA. I'm going to go USA. I'm going to go Eleanor Leger from Eden Ciders.
Oh my God, no. You drew that out of the second time we recorded with Johnny Hamilton. So we had practice.
Oh God.
So yeah, Johnny, now with New Barnes,
yeah.
was Pellicle Mag at the time, and he'd just written his piece on kind of imposter syndrome, mental health. And I think we're all very coy and we didn't know how to talk about stuff very maturely. So we all just kind of, all the questions were like that. So I don't think we get away from it. But what we do get away from is someone winning. This is a draw, but someone's prepared a tiebreaker.
Oh, yeah. Cheeky tiebreaker.
This one isn't who we're talking to. This is a part of an episode. So I'm going to ask you both, Grant first, then Gabe, who this episode was with. This is a part of it. This is a kind of a different voice. So producer Scott, give us the sound clip.
Hi, is this Hawks Spa and Salon? Love your new redesign. Can I book a cut and blow dry for 7 p.m. on Wednesday the 14th of April? Would also love to grab some cans of pineapple shampoo and conditioner. Really need to salvage my curls.
So we had a speak pipe from a robot in an episode with which guest, Grant?
So I'm from.
So
idea who did that, but not who on whose episode that was. I'm gonna say Real Al.
Oh,
I can't believe it.
Pulls it out.
I thought that was going to be a draw. Perfect down the middle.
Kidding me?
He Googled it. He just Googled "love your girls." Gabe, pulled it out of the bag. I've always said you're concise.
That's like a 1 in 52 chance. Man, I need to go and play the lottery. That's the kind of luck I've got.
Are you looking at it now? What's happening?
What do you mean?
It looks like you're looking at something else on the screen going, yeah, what luck. What good luck I had.
I'm flipping between the Riverside tab and the script tab because
perfect.
If I don't have a script in front of me, that's what happens, you see, people. Well, so I have to be kept in check. Otherwise, mega ramble ensues.
Well, ripping up the script. He's done it. Gabe has beaten Grant. I will say this game wasn't rigged. It wasn't anything like that. I hope you guys can appreciate that was just a walk down memory lane.
That was good.
It wasn't rigged. Can I just interject?
Go on.
At that point to say that Gabe really kind of got a free point there.
How did he get a free point?
With the answer being in the question.
Yeah, the answer was in the question. It's a little
but you got duck chicken, and I was going to give you, to counter it out, basically, what...
That would have been the winner.
What do you mean? You got duck chicken.
What do you mean I got duck chicken? Of course I got duck chicken.
Yeah, but you had an easy one. He had a really easy one. So that evens it out.
No, he had one with the answer in the question. There's a difference between that and the easy one.
No, but what I'm saying is...
It's fine.
Well, let's duck chicken out of it. Gabe, wrap us up, baby.
Well, once again, a massive thank you to Sam and Steph for joining us on the show, and a hoot. Grant, Martyn, thank you, and producer Scott for your wonderful company. As always, I'm off to go and bask in the glow of winning the quiz via a very dubious method. Thank you very much, and $5 in the post. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on our slightly bonkers adventure. We appreciate you more than you know. Until next time, stay cool, support independent cider makers, and wassail! If you enjoy our podcast and want to help, please do spread the word about the Neutral Cider Hotel. Tell your friends about it and encourage them to listen. You can also follow, rate and review us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. 5-star reviews are incredibly appreciated and your reviews really do help us out. Also, please find and follow us on social media. We're at Neutral Cider Hotel on Instagram, Facebook, Threads and Reddit. Neutral Cider Pod on X. As always, you can visit us on our website to listen online or share episodes at neutralciderhotel.net, not .com. Lastly, please reach out and leave us a voicemail with your questions or comments on the SpeakPipe. Yes, go to www.speakpipe.com/Neutral Cider Hotel.